Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. I am your host, Donnie. Joined with me today is my co-hosts, the greatest co-hosts, actually, Manosk and Bodacious. Welcome. We
I want to correct you. It's the greatest co-host ever.
Of all time.
Oh. Thank you for that correction. I do appreciate it. So, we are here today to discuss with y'all wrestling. And we love wrestling, and we want y'all to love it as much as we do. So, today we're going to start with talking about how we feel about this week in wrestling. And I want my co-host, Manas, to start us off. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to be honest. While I grew up watching WWE/WWF since the 80s, Monday Night Raws have been kind of on the boring side most weeks. And this week was no different. But the best night of wrestling each week, Wednesday night with AEW and NXT. So, yes, this past Wednesday night was not just good, but great. You had Fyter Fest Night 1 for AEW, and you had the return of the Great American Bash on NXT, and both shows were great. I give both shows an A.
Definitely agree with you there, and both of which will actually extend to next week. So we will actually get 2 weeks worth of I mean, not that they're not always great shows, but essentially pay-per-view level shows for free.
And see, for me, I tried watching both shows at the same time. I had AEW Fyter Fest on the big screen, then I had NXT's Great American Bash on my iPad. I could not take my eyes off the screen for AEW, so I just shut it down, finished AEW, went to my DVR, watched Great American Bash, finished with Great American Bash, went back to AEW, watched it again.
Do you remember when USA Network used to have the dog shows? So Raw would have to go on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And then WCW would have the Clash of the Champions the same night.
Mm-hmm.
It almost felt like that kind of a thing.
Yeah. It did. What was your favorite for the week?
Favorite show? AEW. Definitely. And then second place, obviously, NXT Wednesday night is the champ.
Definitely. We're definitely in agreement on Wednesday night being right now the king of the wrestling night. Not only do we get 2 shows, we really get the upgraded package when it comes to wrestling from those 2 programs. And I'm right there with you. I believe while I believe SmackDown, it was carried a little bit by the fact that it was mostly a tribute to the Undertaker. That AEW and NXT were definitely the shows of the week. So
yeah, that was the only reason I didn't want to really mention SmackDown, because SmackDown wasn't really a SmackDown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
I still find it interesting their placement for Baron Corbin. Like, he always gets a big spot. Like, who did he sleep with?
Well, okay, with Baron Corbin, he is one of the top 2 heels in wrestling right now, like Baron Corbin and MJF. So,
yeah, I don't know why, but
I think he gets go away heat more than.
But
yeah.
Go away heat is still heat though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the
as long as he gets those boos.
I mean, I guess Vicky Guerrero eventually became endearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, even annoying heat is some of the most the prevalent, because when it comes down to it, people like us who love wrestling, we'll get behind a heel that's really good at wrestling. So a lot of times we have to hate. They have to make a character like that just so we can hate them, because they're so annoying.
Well, because look at Dr. Britt Baker, how when they did that show in Austin, Texas, and she bashed Whataburger. Some people would call that going away heat. That was heat. And not everyone can get that kind of heat. Mm-hmm. So any kind of crowd reaction you can get, whether it's good if you're face or even going away heat if you're a heel, like, reaction is a reaction, and that's all that matters in the end.
I hear you. Well, let's move on to our next topic, and I just want to get y'all's opinion. What was your favorite segment of the week? So again, we start our week with Friday Night SmackDown, and obviously end it with AEW and NXT. So starting with to SmackDown to yesterday, which was Wednesday. What do you think was the best segment of the week?
Of each show, or just all
just
around?
in all around? Just what was your favorite segment of any show from the week?
My favorite segment match, I would say, would be the Penelope Ford versus Sheeta at the Fyter Fest last night.
Mm-hmm. And why was that? Why was that your favorite?
Well, that was like the best Fords ever wrestled, and it was surprising because I personally kind of wrote that match off. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was, and bell to bell, it was up there with Sasha versus Io. It was like that and the Thatcher match as like the top 3 matches of the week.
All right, what do you think? What about you, Bodacious? What you think? What was your favorite?
Yeah, I'm going Oni Lorcan versus Timothy Thatcher, and the only downside I can say to that match is that there should have been a build. They could have made some really good money on these two guys.
Why don't you for
out of each other?
For someone who didn't watch that match, go ahead. What exactly was why was that so special?
I just like guys beating each other up. William Regal and Finley. Like, I grew up watching these guys beat the tar out of each other on WCW.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it was a long time before you had seen anything like that because WWE was up for a while. And then all of a sudden they're getting these guys from the UK to come over on the NXT UK, but now they're over on the regular NXT right now because everything going on. But Lorcan is an awesome dude. He reminds me a lot of oh boy, drawing a blank now. The champion, the former NXT champion was DIY.
Tommaso Ciampa.
Ciampa, yeah, he reminds me a lot of Ciampa, the style.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess for somebody that's not accustomed to wrestling, and if this is their introduction to it, I would say these guys are as close to MMA, beating the tar out of each other, as you can get in wrestling.
While you're on the topic of NXT, I kind of want to get y'all's opinion. What did you think of the Rhea Ripley handicap match?
I personally thought it was a little goofy, but I think that it definitely, not that. So in my opinion of the situation is Rhea Ripley is ready for the regular SmackDown or Raw roster. Not that NXT is really held to a lower standard now, but I mean Rhea Ripley has star written all over her, and I mean it just showed hand over fist that she's well and above anybody else, and just putting. Not that her competition was stout, but she just dominated so heavily, and it was just so clear how much better she was than them.
See, when I first saw the match, I was actually going to text y'all and ask y'all, who in the world did Rhea Ripley piss off to be in this goofy match? But I'm going to hold off and watch to see how the match goes. And by the end of it, I was entertained. I had no complaint. But it is still kind of weird. She went from NXT Women's Champion to dropping the belt to Charlotte to in a comedy match.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, Robert Stone, that's Robbie E, right?
Yeah, it's Robbie E.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like he's above that character.
Yeah, but he's entertaining, and when you show you have those entertaining he will eventually be moved up to the main roster, but sadly in that same role or something similar.
Yeah.
Another R-Truth.
Hey, I can't hate on R-Truth. He's been putting in work since.
He's entertaining, but at the same time, if you look at his work when he was in TNA, he was a world champion over there. I mean, he gets to WWE, and they just keep throwing him in these comedy roles.
Well, I don't know who let the having CM Punk throw like alcohol and tobacco on him, that was like a really the downfall for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know mine's gonna buck the trend a little bit, but my actual favorite segment was actually the contract signing for Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. The reason it was my favorite was because of the fact that when Raw opened, it was a cluster. So it's just like we were talking about before we started the video. You know, it immediately caught my eye. It got me engaged. It wasn't just 4 people sitting around. They were already brawling out of their mind. So right off the bat, I was like into it, and I was like, all right. So even though overall the segment wasn't overly special, because of that initial, the fact that they played it out the way they did, it really got me engaged into Raw, where a lot of times it's really you got to wait the first, you got to wait 10-15 minutes into Raw to finally see some action. So I thought that was really good for them to really pull you in, and that's why I thought that, in my eyes, that was my favorite segment because of that. Even though it wasn't the greatest match, or it really got me engaged into Raw, where watching somebody talk for 10 minutes may not have been as stimulating, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I feel like every time they start with a really good match, the ratings go up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can agree. I mean, it's absolutely, you start with the action, you put 2 stars right off the beginning. And it's the same reason why they do at WrestleMania. They always do that the matches with some of the most attractive superstars, like the high flyers, or they always do that match first to get people real pumped.
Well, I know for like those like pay-per-views and stuff, they always say you put one, like the 2 main events, you always put one of them to open the show, mm-hmm. and the best one to end the show. And then you have a really strong one in the middle of the show, but you always open up strong. And they have always said, if you can't be last, be first.
Damn, darn straight, for sure.
It was why Eric Bischoff threw on the cruiserweights at the beginning of Nitro every time.
That was the most exciting thing in Nitro.
Yeah, absolutely. You see those high flyers, and you're just pumped. You're ready for the next thing. And granted, it falls on them to perform and produce, but if they can at least get you hyped for the beginning, then you're it's much better than being lulled to sleep at the beginning.
Speaking of high flyers, I'm sad that we don't get the Brian Cage match next week. You gotta wait 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
He's like a high flyer Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, that's I saw that and I was like, rats. I was like, I actually have not I've only seen since I'm pretty new to AEW. I have not seen Jon Moxley wrestle. So, I mean, granted, I've seen clips, but I've not actually watched a Jon Moxley match yet.
And to be honest, the match I'm most excited for next week is the Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy match.
Definitely, that's going to be super great.
He's going to put him over. He's going to get him to that next level, and he's going to be a superstar pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Orange Cassidy is legit.
Yeah, just from what I've watched so far, I'm definitely feeling Orange Cassidy's vibe for sure, and he hasn't even wrestled since I've been watching. So, but I mean the storyline.
Sabu and RVD rolled into one as far as the vibe. You know what I mean? Like they turn the lights out, and then all of a sudden he's in the crowd or he's in the ring, and that's like the Sabu aspect. And then just his vibe and his personality, he's like RVD.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that for sure. I mean, when the segment that I watched last week when he was the cameraman, and all of a sudden, I was like, that's what's up.
What's funny about him is, like, my brother doesn't watch wrestling, but he'll actually, if he's like passing by, he'll see Orange Cassidy then pop on the screen. He like to sit there and watch that whole segment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a my UPS guy that comes and delivers his son, which is not older than my son. He loves Orange Cassidy, so I was like, if a 6-year-old can get behind Orange Cassidy, I said apparently he's doing something right. All right, so let's segue over to our next segment of the broadcast here. Let's talk about our favorite which actually Manosk actually might have touched on his, but let's discuss our favorite ongoing feuds that are that's going on TV right now. That's what
I said Jericho versus Orange Cassidy.
Yeah,
for me.
That's and why is that your favorite?
Well, when you have a veteran versus a rising star like Orange Cassidy, this is his freshman year, and to see him in such a big main event feud like that, that's them creating new stars. And I'm already emotionally invested in Orange Cassidy, and Jericho's at his prime. I mean, Jericho doesn't do crappy matches, so no matter what, you're going to get a 5-star Jericho no matter what happens in that match. So, and as entertaining as Orange Cassidy is, throwing him in there with Jericho, it's going to be best match of the week.
Yeah. I'm definitely...
Unless you get a dusty finish.
Referencing Jericho, he's still fire. Like, there's just nothing... he was on commentary for Fyter Fest, and it's just... He stands out where others don't. It's just... he put the rest of the commentary team to shame.
When he retires from the ring, I hope he becomes a commentator for AEW. I mean, he would be the next Bobby Heenan. JR back in his heyday, one of the commentators. That 90s, early 2000s JR. Lawler with JR. Wait, did I say JR or did I say Lawler earlier?
Lawler. You said JR.
I didn't say JR.
Yeah, you meant
Lawler.
Okay,
sorry, I meant Lawler.
Yeah.
JR's always been good.
Yeah, he's still good for sure.
He's the GOAT.
Yep. What about you, Bodacious? What's your favorite ongoing feud that's going on right now, and why?
I feel like you guys already touched on like the real good ones that I've had, but I'm gonna go with an underrated one if that's okay, because I've really started to believe in Drake Maverick. So I feel like what he's doing with Del Santo or El Hijo, he changed his name to
the Cruiserweight Champion. How about that?
Yeah, the Cruiserweight Champion. The changing of his personality. The guys were kidnapped and then now they're back. I like the whole thing that they've got going on right now, and I'm really interested to see where they're going to go with it. And then they brought Breezango into it, so I'm kind of intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, anything right in my eyes, anything with Drake Maverick right now is going to be fire because of just the storyline behind just him. I think he's got huge momentum right now, and I don't think I think as long as they protect it a little bit, I think that he's going to do some really great things moving forward for sure. Got anything? Got any input there, Manosk? Okay.
No.
All right.
I would say a runner-up for me would be the Randy Edge storyline.
Yeah, I feel like that was too obvious. I had that huge at the top of my page, but I was like, you know what? We kind of.
I wouldn't say that's obvious because that easily could have sucked. But
that's
both
true.
of them at the top of their game.
Yeah, but they both care. They both care about making each other look good because they're friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
It's not like Randy with somebody he doesn't like, and he gives a garbage match.
I think that's the beauty. If you look at the Adam, what did you Adani?
Yeah.
What did you say your favorite is?
I haven't given mine. I was seeing if you had any input on his first.
Oh.
And I was going to give mine after that. but since we're talking about Randy and Edge, that's fine. I mean, I think that I think continuing this rivalry is a great idea. Like, I think bringing back the Randy Legend Killer is, it was always one of his best gimmicks, and I think it's phenomenal for it to be back. Like, I think that's gonna make that fills a hole that really wasn't filled up until this point, because like we had
Apex Predator.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really have a place, and now he does. I mean, granted, he'll always have a place because he's a great performer, but he was middling, with little storyline after little storyline, and now he's finally got that one. He's back to his Legend Killer form, and he's back in that great feud where everybody has really got eyes on it. So it's like, he's in the greatest wrestling match ever, and he punts Christian, if you know his situation, he deals with concussions. So this makes him out to be a really, really, really bad guy, where he was just I'm a bad guy before. So I think that this is really good for his character. Also, it's a great way to bring Edge back. I don't know if Edge is going to be back permanently, or if this is, if this will just be his storyline for, until he's done. But I mean, I think it's, putting him with, essentially one of the top wrestlers in the company. I think that's, that it's only going to make both of them look better.
Okay, let me ask you this: when they're done with that storyline, who else would you want to see Edge in the ring with before he's done on the WWE side?
Seth Rollins.
Daniel Bryan.
AJ Styles, dude.
I mean, when it comes, in my eyes, I'm for real. In my eyes, if you say any wrestler's name that's not Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, or AJ Styles, the answer is Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles. Those, I mean,
maybe Adam Cole.
Yeah, I mean, there's, there obviously, if we've already seen the match.
Actually, you know what? Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Hardy's my favorite wrestler of all times. So I mean, I fully support any match that Jeff does. So
well, because storyline wise, they could go back all the way back to their, when they did the first TLC match, and their feud since then. They could take each other to that next level and pretty much retire each other.
Yeah, that's true. That's true for sure. What do you think about Acius?
I completely agree. I don't really have much.
I would say
you said everything I needed to say.
But the only issue is everybody we named except for one person is an older veteran on their way out. But instead, I think it's best for him to feud with somebody new and up and coming to help make somebody.
Well, if I was picking somebody who is new and up and coming,
new and up and coming that you trust to have a match with Edge, that won't hurt Edge,
and that will be in WWE for the next 10 years or so.
Well, I mean, obviously, there. Y'all go. Somebody else. If they have one first.
You were about to say Baron Corbin, weren't you?
No.
I would actually agree if you said Baron Corbin, because, Edge is the lowest base now. Baron Corbin is the top heel. It would help get Baron Corbin over if he just dominates or retires Edge.
I mean,
he already did that Angle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, he would, if he would be, right now, he would be the, the second, the Legend Killer light, because that's what he's been doing. He's been putting the older veterans out to pasture, so to speak.
Bray Wyatt. I want to see Bray Wyatt against Edge.
That would be good.
Because he could bring back the bloodbath or something, or I guess the Kool-Aid bath, if they can't call it a bloodbath.
Okay.
PP, right?
I'm not adding on to the joke because I don't say anything bad.
Well, so let me. While I'm thinking about what wrestler I would want to see face Edge, other than the one of the younger up and coming, maybe Matt Riddle would probably be one that, I mean, he has really a kind of an old Edge vibe anyway, so I think that
I would be, because of Matt Riddle's MMA background and him being a hard hitter, I wouldn't want to see him in the ring with Edge. I think I'd first see him in the ring with like Randy Orton or somebody who would be able to take the style of matches that would make Matt Riddle shine.
Well, now that we've knocked out Randy Orton and Edge, let me do my favorite ongoing feud. But really, mine is a little odd. Mine is Bray Wyatt and
Braun Strowman.
Thank you. Yeah, for some reason that escaped me. Braun Strowman. But the main reason that this is my favorite ongoing feud, because the main reason is because of what they're doing with Bray Wyatt. And while while personally there may be a lot of mixed feelings about this, but personally in my eyes, I love it. In my eyes, they're making Bray Wyatt the new Mankind, with him having these 4 faces of Bray Wyatt. And in my eyes,
so not to cut you off while you have to pause, did you get to see the Stadium Stampede in the AEW?
I don't think so.
It was in their last pay-per-view.
No, I didn't see it.
I don't know if there's a way for you to watch it. It might be on YouTube. I would say watch that for next time, and I want to see your comparison of the faces of Hardy versus the faces of Wyatt.
That's what I was going to say. Is I really feel like instead of comparing him to Mankind, because he's probably the originator of this whole multiple personality, multiple characters that were in one time period. I feel like we're closer to Matt Hardy, and because of that tag team, I feel like maybe they're really good friends behind the scenes, so they're probably like riffing on each other.
Well, I'll have to take a look, but I mean, in my eyes, obviously you have regular Bray Wyatt, which is the follow the leader Bray Wyatt, and then you have Husky Harris, which is his little workout guy. And then you have obviously the Fiend, and then you have the playful Bray Wyatt, the one from the Funhouse. So I mean, you have your 4 faces, and I mean it's obviously Dude Love is a little bit different, but I mean they're very paralleled in the way that they are designed. Obviously, you have Bray Wyatt. The original Bray Wyatt, which is more of a, kind of out of the box type person, which you have was just Cactus Jack, and then you have obviously the more inline Funhouse person, which would be your Dude Love, or Mick Foley. That would be kind of your Mick Foley, and then obviously you have Husky Harris, which would be your Dude Love, and then you have the Fiend, which would be your Mankind. So, I really like that. I like they're bringing that back. I like that they're having that multiple personality, and it helps Bray Wyatt, because even though let's say he takes a loss as one of his characters, if he turns around and gets a win as another character, well, that loss doesn't hurt him, because it was X character that lost, not, the Fiend. Or, it's the same thing with Finn Balor. Finn Balor, had the demon, and
I think what hurt Finn Balor is WWE 50-50 booking, and I think the beauty of Bray Wyatt, because he has so many other characters, that they can still protect the Fiend by doing the 50-50 booking with all the other faces.
Yep.
Well, that and the injury, right? The injury the first night he got the championship, and McMahon was probably like, "Yep, he's not my guy anymore. I feel like he was gonna be rocket ship to the moon, but the shoulder.
Oh, Finn Balor, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
from the match against
Rollins.
boy Seth Rollins.
That was that year where Rollins hurt him. I think he busted Cena's nose, and then he hurt Sting, all in that same calendar year.
Well, they banned the buckle bomb because of it.
Yeah, that wasn't his fault.
He was doing that knee, and I think he broke Cena's nose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure that the breaking Cena's nose. I mean, no one's going to feel bad about that. First of all, but second of all, I mean, that's a reasonable accident. It's a reasonable accident for the breaking of the nose. But the buckle bomb, when you have 2 or 3 incidents, and that brings me to the point of Nia Jax, where Nia Jax just hurts everyone she's in the ring with. Like, she just does.
The buckle bomb. They've had professional wrestlers explain it. No matter how professional you are, how many times you're used to taking it, there's no way to prepare for taking the buckle bomb because the human body is not made for that impact, and you don't know when it's going to hit you. And so, no matter how careful both wrestlers are being, it's easy to get injured, like really bad, doing the buckle bomb. So that wouldn't be Nia Jax or Seth Rollins' fault for those injuries.
No, I agree.
That and the one that Balor took was not even on a buckle. It was
but I mean in the same in the same wheelhouse. I mean, it was the same.
I'm just saying it's slightly different, so there's going to be slightly different to try to catch yourself. So yeah, I'm totally defending you on this. Taking your stand.
I'll just stop him before he gets into Nia Jax, because Nia Jax is still kind of new. Like Seth Rollins was that year when he was injuring all of. It weren't his fault, but it's the accident. Kind of like with hers. Hers have also just been accident because some superstars are not allowing enough time in the development, and they rush them to TV and rush them these storylines and rush them through the matches. I guess you were about to get into the her versus what's her I can't think of the name.
I was just saying she's hurt a lot of people just being in the ring with them. Like, well, let alone with and I feel like even though Nia was injured, I think part of maybe her reasoning to come back a little bit slower may have needed a little bit more training, because obviously when you're that big, when you're manhandling women that are half your size, you need to be expertly trained, because you can easily use more power than you anticipated when you're throwing around 90 pounds.
I know they were having the same issue with Braun Strowman as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, when most of the people you're training against are your size, and then all of a sudden you gotta go against somebody like huge, what are you gonna do? You're not used to taking the bump that way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anybody have anything else on their favorite ongoing feuds? Okay. News category of our greatest wrestling podcast ever, and with that, I'm gonna let Bodacious start. He's got some exciting news that he wants to talk about.
Hot off the presses, Sting has talked about One Last Ride. And if you know about the Last Ride documentary with The Undertaker, I feel like you know where he's going with this. I don't know if he's just playing at my heartstrings, but if it's going to happen, I feel like it needs to be a cinematic match, because I don't think the two guys can go live like they used to and like they want to. But if they do a cinematic match, I'm all for it, and I would be really happy for it to be at next year's WrestleMania.
So, personally, I mean, Sting, back when I was much younger, and Sting was much younger, he was my favorite wrestler. So, I am all about Sting coming back, even if he even if it's not a cinematic match. Obviously, I mean, that would be favorable. And I think that it's shown that cinematic matches work, so I don't see any reason not to do that. But I don't necessarily think that it has to be against The Undertaker. While that would be a great match, I would also love to see Sting versus Jeff Hardy. I think Jeff Hardy has a lot of Sting inside of him, even though they have different wrestling styles. But I feel like Sting and Jeff Hardy have a lot in common when it comes to just where their background comes from, and so I think that would be a really great match too, even if it's not cinematic.
The current storyline with Jeff Hardy and the incident that happened in TNA with Sting. Oof. You know what I'm saying? A little close there.
Well, I'm just saying.
I personally would like for maybe Sting to come out and like WrestleMania and call it The Undertaker, have a gong come out, and have Undertaker do his entrance, have him get in the ring, they're face to face, but then you have some new up and comers coming in the ring trying to take them on, have them tag team together, take them out, and it's safe for both of them at their old age, and you get the WrestleMania moment, and they face each other.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? Just to kind of get just to hit on this a little bit more. What do you think is the most likely scenario? Not the kind of thing we dream, but what do you think is the most likely scenario? Do you think it's the cinematic match, or more in a line with just a fan service?
If they have an actual match, one-on-one match against two, it would have to be a cinematic match.
Right.
I don't think Undertaker versus AJ Styles would have been as good as it was if it wasn't cinematic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
speaking of that, I don't know if I would want to take away AJ getting the last match with The Undertaker, but I really have always wanted to see Undertaker versus Sting, so I'm torn.
I mean,
I want to see Undertaker versus Sting, but I also don't want that to be Undertaker's last match. I would prefer Undertaker's last match to be, like I said, against an up and rising star. And normally, when a veteran hangs up their boots, it's normally to get the next generation over. Mm-hmm. And AJ Styles is not exactly next generation; he's close to ending himself. So it's like someone like the Fiend or like Bray Wyatt. I would prefer like Undertaker hanging boots up against the Fiend.
Yeah, I could see that. Do you think? What about the Fiend versus Sting? Do you think that would be a possibility?
If we're talking up and coming, I'd like to see Aleister Black versus Sting.
Yeah, I would too.
That.
Shoot, even Aleister Black versus Taker.
Yeah, I mean, we had predicted that possibility for a while. It just never came to fruition.
They don't know what to do with Aleister Black, and I mean, I don't understand why he's in the Rey Mysterio storyline against Seth Rollins.
Well, I think the thing about Aleister Black is I think they need to get him out of the dark and brooding type of.
No, he's actually great at dark and
brooding.
Yeah, but
when
if you look at his independence work,
I agree with that. But what I'm saying is a lot of Undertaker's a lot of what Undertaker did toward the middle, toward his most popular years, was all in stables, like. So if you get in stables he led specifically, so I think that it would behoove WWE to make Aleister Black more of a leader type character, even though he can brood and do and granted, mainly for the Undertaker it was like an evil cultish type. They're generally evil cultish type stables, so. I think that his character doesn't work as a face. I think it needs to be heel, and I think if he turns heel, it's going to change the dynamic and put him in the star position that he deserves to be in and that he can do. But I think that he needs to be a heel first. I think him as a face is not a good fit, at least right now.
I think a program I'd write for him would be like a year-long program of him searching for the Undertaker's urn, and having getting the urn, defeating the Undertaker, and then when he comes to the ring, he carries her in with him as he comes up with that little vampire thing.
Mm-hmm.
That would work great with his character.
Yeah, that would be good for sure.
Has he had a WrestleMania match?
I think it was a tag team match.
I feel like it's going to be multi-man. I don't think he's had a solo match.
So he technically could still start a new streak.
I think so. I think that I think he had a tag team match with Ricochet for the tag team titles 2 years ago.
Gotcha.
If I recall correctly, I think that was
the most
right.
random tag team.
Yeah, I think. I mean, they're opposite wrestling styles. So when it was decently entertaining when they were tag team, but again,
the only thing I liked about it is the fact they got them both on the show. Otherwise, they both would be lower mid card.
All right,
which is sad because both of those should be like in the main event on both shows.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I feel like Ricochet needs to work on his psychology a little bit.
I feel like they should move him to SmackDown and give him a lot more single matches.
So definitely to work on his
yeah. Or start the new nation. I mean, they have the right people on Raw with MVP in the lead, with Bobby Lashley, Ricochet, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin,
Apollo Crews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would support. I think WWE's dynamic need to make sure that they're looking at favoring larger than 3 stables, because it clearly is succeeding for AEW. So why?
I mean, WWE's never really been good at stables though. DX, I'm sorry, was an accident only because they gave Triple H and Shawn Michaels free reign. They didn't have free reign. WWE would have screwed that up.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that, aside from DX being an accident, I don't necessarily deny that. But when it comes to stables, I mean, I don't necessarily. I mean, obviously, there was a big gap where I didn't watch wrestling, so there may have been a lot of failures in that. But when I watched wrestling,
they screwed up Nexus. Like Nexus was probably their best thing since DX, and they screwed that up so fast, it's not even funny.
Well, and then they tried to do it again a year later, and they screwed that up too.
Yeah, they just for some reason they just can't get stables correctly.
Well, I mean,
I'm surprised.
The Shield
Undisputed Era is still together.
I mean,
the Shield was an aberration.
Well, the Shield was 3. They succeed at 3s. It's when they go past 3 that there's the problem. But so I mean, you had the censorship stable. You had the
that failed pretty quickly.
Yeah,
right,
but
the censor.
It was still entertaining. Like,
not really back in the day. Like when you go back and look at it now, it's entertaining. Back in the day, it was that going away heat you were talking about it, where it was like kind of boring. It's like, oh, not done again.
Yeah.
And then
when you go from The Godfather to
yeah, I remember back in the day when that was happening. I was like, don't ruin their character.
It was Terry Runnels.
No, it was Ivory, Val Venus, Godfather,
Test.
Richard.
Was Test in it?
Oh, no.
I don't know if Test was in it. I just watched an old Raw 2 days ago, and right since it came out, that was when they first introduced Ivory. But I think at that point it was just Stevie Richards, Val Venus, Godfather, and Ivory.
But I mean, yeah. I mean, there are other examples. Obviously, Nation of Domination was a decent success. Obviously,
but that was before. That was around that DX time.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
The Attitude Era.
Yeah,
I'm talking about since the Attitude Era.
Yeah,
like this modern days, the ruthless aggression, and to today, they just can't be stable. It's like they have not been able to successfully do a bigger than a 3-man stable. Like since
because even
I don't know,
even the nation of the League of Heroes, whatever the hell, the League of Nations.
League of Nations, yeah.
We lost. Lost somebody.
League of Nations was total fail. It's like, I mean, only reason Undisputed Era has been successful as they have been and been together for so long is because they're on NXT and not on the main roster.
Right.
And the only reason New Day has been together because they all threatened to leave if they ever broke them up.
Well, hopefully he'll join back. I lost Bodacious. I don't know what happened.
But yes, look at TNA. They had their Aces and Eights, which was their NWO meet Bullet Club, and that was successful for a while. And they're bringing that back right now. And then you have AEW was nothing but factions. And you have New Japan Wrestling full of factions, Ring of Honor full of factions, WWE. I don't know. They said Vince McMahon is not a fan of factions, and that's supposed to be one of the reasons why. Mm-hmm. But they have such a giant roster. It would be successful if they built more factions and stuck with it. Mm-hmm. Not really feeling the Seth Rollins one right now, but it was going in the right direction. And then it just, I guess when the COVID stuff started, it just kind of petered off.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the Seth Rollins stable that I have a problem with is is that he's like all of a sudden he's a good guy and he has a like an alternative personality and I don't think that's like, and then he's a bad guy again. It kind of they kind of middled and didn't really know where they were going, and
kind of, it's weird they're teasing like Buddy Murphy was breaking away from it, and then he's back all of a sudden, and they added an Austin Theory, and they're like, what's going on?
Exactly, that's the problem. I think Seth Rollins can be great at anything he does, but I think that the writers, and obviously that happened when they changed Paul Heyman. And they changed Paul Heyman's off of the head writer and they brought everyone together. That could have something to do with what happened.
Well, that only happened like not too long ago, so it's just the writing has been inconsistent for it. And they rely too heavily on the writers, and that's probably one of the issues I have with the main roster of WWE. It seems like it got better on SmackDown, though. Like, SmackDown has actually been better the past, like, couple of months. But it's still so heavily scripted. If they let the wrestlers go off script, it would be, like, probably, like, Raw back in the Attitude Era heydays.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is as I, SmackDown has Jeff Hardy, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles. I mean, they have the money makers there because Roman Reigns is not wrestling right now. So, like, aside from Seth Rollins, SmackDown is the place to watch wrestling. If obviously not if you're talking about WWE. Aside from if you were to take if you were to have matches all night, every match would be on the greater side because of the talent that's on SmackDown. It's just obviously they're dealing with a lot of due to the stuff that that's happening right now, that they're suffering. But I don't know why the main shows are suffering, but NXT is still perfect. Is still great every week. So,
we were talking about that while you were trying to get your video stuff working. It's actually NXT kind of changed. Like me personally, I found it to be a better show when they had it on the network when it was an hour long. Mm-hmm. Ever since they moved it to the USA Network, the pacing of it kind of slowed down. We had like a little more corporate feel than what it used to in the past, and it feels like there's like a little more input from the network versus Triple H and his crew doing their own thing. Because like, even with the Great American Bash, like when I was comparing it to AEW, the reason why I wasn't enjoying Great American Bash as much was because of the pacing between the matches. The matches themselves were good, but it's just that all those segments in between just like kind of took me out of it. Mm-hmm. And that's how NXT has been for me ever since it moved to USA. And I've been watching it less and less. I still watch takeovers, but I have a hard time watching the TV shows. I wish they'd move it to a different night, because then you wouldn't be comparing it to AEW. If NXT would be its own thing, they should have moved it on Tuesday or Thursday, or kept it an hour in the network and had a different and had the time slot it was already on, I think they'd do better that way as well.
There he is.
Because I think if they would left it on the WWE network, and it was already from 7 to 8, I really think you would have people probably tuning in to NXT for that hour, 7 to 8, and then flipping over to AEW from 8 to 9. But yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. What? I don't know what happened. You just.
My phone decided to update.
Oh. It's that time, is it?
Yeah.
I had no idea it was that late, but either way, I'm back.
Just start wrapping it up. What matches are you looking forward to next week?
I am looking forward to the Keith Lee and Adam Cole. That's the match I'm looking forward to. The hand over fist. That's the. I think that's going to be great, and I'm super hyped for that.
What about you, Bodacious?
Yeah, Monosk and I had this discussion earlier, but we kind of got it ruined for us. But I am looking forward to it, but sadly, I know the result.
Yeah, like people spoiled the Great American Bash for next week, and so I think that's probably going to hurt them in the rating because so many people are going to know what it is that they're going to tune into Fyter Fest because they don't know the results of that, and then probably watch the recording of Great American Bash.
Really?
But
I didn't even seek it out. Like I
didn't either.
I was on my phone, like the dog things happened, and then I went down, and then there it was, and I was like, because I was really looking forward to that.
Or is it the match I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I say obviously we don't want to do any spoilers here, but.
Either way, I'm still looking forward to, like I said earlier, Orange Cassidy versus Jericho, since we don't have the title match.
Yeah, but I mean, essentially we have, 2 weeks more, 2 weeks, of matches we are hyped about because the following week we get the cage match, right? So that's going to put us in a good spot, and especially, hopefully we get some better. Hopefully we get Raw and SmackDown to be a little bit more on the active side this coming week, and obviously SmackDown is tomorrow, so we won't get the tribute to the Taker, so we'll have an extra 35-40 minutes of SmackDown that we didn't get last week, so there could be some good stuff. One thing I did want to mention going back to the breaking news is just the there was a tweet by Conor McGregor that he was basically saying that he could beat up Vince McMahon, and Drew McIntyre came to Vince McMahon's defense. So I don't know if that's something that's in the works, that maybe we could see Drew McIntyre and Conor McGregor. I mean, what do y'all think about that?
Versus Conor McGregor. To be honest, I would be more excited about what's his name? He's talking about Matt
Riddle.
Matt Riddle versus Conor McGregor than Drew McIntyre, because I think Drew McIntyre just towers way over Conor McGregor, and like he can just sneeze and Conor fly out of the ring.
But I think Conor McGregor could be like doing a Ronda Rousey 1 year WWE type thing because he's not fighting right now. He's retired.
Like matchup wise, that just wouldn't look realistic. Cause like I said, I think Conor McGregor's 5'10". He's probably taller than that. I don't know. But he's 5'10", and Drew McIntyre's 6'7".
He's got a name.
Let me look him up.
Well, remember. At a WrestleMania, they did have Floyd Mayweather versus The Big Show. Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
And The Big Show was double the size of Floyd.
I know, but that wasn't really believable.
What?
But Conor McGregor is 5'9".
So
let me see what Drew McIntyre's height is. And I mean, Drew McIntyre's 6'5".
Oh, he's 6'3" in real life, right?
Yeah, probably. Even then, he still towered well over him, and people like, because I even had some people comment like they see Daniel Bryan in the ring with like somebody taller, like, come on, that's not even believable. That little guy in the ring with that big man, the big guy will destroy him.
I feel like they would give Conor McGregor like Ronda Rousey's whole punch him up into the corner and square him up, and then maybe do like a arm drag, take something like similar to that is what he's gonna end up getting.
Okay.
Like I said, if it was against Matt Riddle, sign me up.
Hey,
Drew McIntyre,
we'll see.
I don't really see that much of a matchup.
Well, I mean, you got to remember that if Conor McGregor, was making millions of dollars before possibly, venturing into WWE, I mean, the reason he'd come to WWE would be to become champion. And if he was going to become champion, who's he supposed to face? He's going to face Drew McIntyre. So it makes
Let's
sense.
take the title off of Drew.
Right.
Give it to Otis.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. So so we're all excited for the.
I was gonna say one more match I was looking forward to next week is FTR and the Young Bucks versus Butcher and Blade and Lucha Brothers.
Yeah, that's something that I touched on earlier before we started recording, is that one thing since I've started watching AEW, that AEW does better than it seems like anybody else is their tag team wrestling is just phenomenal. Like the type of wrestling, tag team wrestling I see in AEW is the stuff I remember from the Attitude Era. Like that's it's all meshed. Everything even though AEW is a little more raw when it comes to the overall product, it's still like their tag team wrestling in general feels so clean. Like it's like all of a sudden you'll have one team that has the advantage, that's double teaming, pulling up, and all of a sudden the one kicks out and the next tag team's into their two double team move. And it's so clean and so polished. That hands down is the best thing I think about AEW wrestling right now is compared to the WWE product is WWE's tag team wrestling is much more broken up. One person is good, then the next person is good. Where in AEW the team is good, like during the match, and I think that's and so I'm excited to watch tag team wrestling in AEW for sure.
And there's a 6-man tag match I'm also looking forward to, continuing the storyline of Colt Cabana with the Dark Order, whether or not he joins or not. They're going up against SCU. And then you also get Omega and Page versus Private Party. And then you get Rose versus an unannounced opponent.
Isn't that interesting that AEW is doing the thing we hate WWE doing, but they're doing it better than WWE does? They got two individuals that are together in the Elite, but they're individuals totally, but they're a really good tag team together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely.
It's all about. Well, you also don't. You had them as a tag team for a bit before they even went after the titles, also as well, and they were already in the stable together. And so they weren't just two random superstars just thrown together.
Does he have animosity towards the other Elite members?
Right. There was actually storylines with it, yeah.
Or WWE, I can't remember the last time they had a real good tag team storyline. Whatever happened to the days of the Quebecers, and the Steiner brothers, and
Yeah.
Yep.
And then on the NXT side, I'll run the preview of what next week's match is. It's going to be a 6-man tag of Drake Maverick and Breezango versus Phantasma, Gargano versus Scott, Mia Yim versus Candice LeRae, Knox versus Shirai, and the main event, Adam Cole versus Keith Lee.
Knox versus Shirai is going to be fire. I was like, NXT women wrestling is premium, so I I'm definitely excited about that too.
Yeah, I think what I enjoy about the AEW's women matches is the fact each week you get to see them improving, taking a step further, getting better and better and better in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, seriously, if you watch the first couple of months versus today, that wow, they're putting on a pretty good match, and you kind of cheer for them. You're proud of them.
Yeah. For a while there, I felt like, because they had, I forget who it was that was their first women's champion. I forget her name now, but in my mind was
Rio.
Io Shirai's like little sister or something like that. That's what it seemed like to me, like just
Rio.
little Japanese girl. We're just gonna let her be the champion, and I was like,
she was the best one they had.
yeah. But I mean, that wasn't saying like a lot. I mean, now I've gotten to like her, but at first I didn't get the taste of her. It was just here she is, and I wasn't super impressed at first. Yeah. But I have gotten to like a lot of their female wrestlers, since then. But like Manas was saying, it was a little rough at first.
Yeah, it was.
All right,
you're getting to see the shine on the poop a little bit there, Adam, for Adoni.
Well, I guess
Oh boy.
But yeah, we should probably end this now because I'm just getting started in AEW.
Well, I'll say we're wrapping it up to the end, and I just want to get y'all's. I'll start with Manas. Who would you give your star of the week to? What wrestler do you think performed above and
Penelope
beyond?
Ford, just because she made the biggest improvement.
And she's from
AEW.
There you go. Just
She was winning the title match against Sheeta.
Okay, yeah, that was a good match.
I think she had the best improvement overall for the week of everybody. Like, she went up that next level, pretty much.
What about you, Bodacious? Who do you give your star of the week to?
For a match?
What wrestler, do you think was the best, was just overall performer this week?
Just me personally, I feel like Timothy Thatcher. I didn't really know much about him before the week, but that match really put him on the map for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna give him the shout out.
Okay, all right. Personally, I'm gonna give my star of the week to Sasha Banks. I think that she is overwhelmingly, I wouldn't say carrying, but she's making the most of all of her opportunities. She's putting on great matches, and she's on. Obviously, we're dealing with a taped schedule, but she's doing 2 to 3 matches a week. So I give my star to Sasha Banks this week because she was in 3 total segments this week, 2 on Raw, 1 on NXT, and all 3 were great segments. So yeah.
One thing I want you to think about and discuss next week, rumor news-wise, is Tessa Blanchard. Would she thrive better in WWE or AEW?
Okay. That sounds good. Say, anybody have any closing thoughts?
Also, for next week, I want you to do your homework on the Faces of Hardy. We're going to discuss the comparisons of the Faces of Hardy and the Faces of Wyatt.
Wyatt. Okay. Faces of Hardy against the Faces of Wyatt. That sounds good. All right.
Well, I've got one.
Go for it.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Number one thing this week that just blew me away, but it wasn't a match. It was just a segment. Was Taz taking a shot at WWE with that promo? I was like, whoa.
Yes, I agree. We don't run a sloppy shop here.
That's rough. And Bodacious looks like he froze, but all right.
He did.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I appreciate y'all coming and hanging out with us on the very first episode of the greatest wrestling podcast ever. Please come back next week, same time, and we will talk some more wrestling. If you have any questions, that you want to hear us answer on the channel and page, leave it on the comments below. Thank you for joining us. We are out.
Later.